Hi everybody, welcome back to Joe's RC Corner. I got my little helper Joey here with me today. He's going to help me get the servo mounts in the aircraft today, and we're also going to take a look at how we're going to make the internal plate on for the battery hatch here. So stay tuned. Okay, so we're going to be using this hardwood, I think it's a bass. I bought it at the local Hobby Lobby. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mark the distance that we need to go between the two sides of the fuselage. And these are going to be the servo mount rails inside the fuselage. So we're going to go ahead and make the measurements here. So you get your trusty ruler. And it looks like we're going to be I like this ruler better. All right, so we got the ruler out, and it looks like we're going to be about, let's see, 75 millimeters. So we're going to go with 75 millimeters here. We're going to mark that out. Okay, 75 millimeters. Get your pencil, and you put in that mark there. So 75. 75 millimeters, right there. Okay, now we're going to use a razor saw to do this. We're going to cut that one, and then what we'll do is we're going to measure again from that spot and do another one, and we'll have two servo rails, and then we'll place those, glue those against the walls inside the fuselage here, and that's where the servos are going to be mounted. So let's go ahead and get this cut. You want to cut this one, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to hold it off to the edge. Okay. No. You're going to hold it off on the edge, and then you're going to take your saw. You're going to hold it like this, Joe. You're going to line it up. Let me get the line started, then you can do the rest, okay? But keep your fingers away from the saw. Okay? Nope, away from the saw. Away from the saw, okay? We're going to just cut back and forth like this. You got to keep it in the slot there so you don't get your fingers. Let the saw do the work, right? Okay, there we go. Now we're going to trial fit it. And it looks like we're a little too long, which is fine. And we'll take the sanding block here, and we're going to sand this. And the other end too, to make sure they're both being sanded evenly. And it looks like there's a little bit more to go, so we're going to go ahead and take this over to the sand. Okay, so we got the piece all sanded up here. We're ready to go ahead and take a look and measure from the next one, okay? So we're going to put that line there because we want both of these to be exactly the same, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll put the line right here. And then we're going to cut this one, Joe, okay? Okay, very good. Now let's see if they're the same. Look pretty close, but this one needs to be sanded a little bit. So we'll go ahead and sand that one down a little bit. And we want to make sure we have a nice 90-degree spot angle. So we're going to take them both to the sander, and we're going to make sure they're both exactly the same. All right, so now they're both exactly the same now. So we're going to go ahead and trial fit them in there. And they fit nicely. Now, we need to measure how high we want these. So, what do we need to do that? We need the servos. We need to know how much room we have. So we're going to grab one of these servos. Now, these servos that we're going to be utilizing are DS339 MGs. They're Corona servos from Hobby King. I'll leave the link in the description below. But basically, these are ball bearing digital servos, and they're metal geared, and they're very high speed. They're 0.14 seconds to go 60 degrees. So we're going to use these. They're great servos. I've used them in many of my builds so far, and I've had no issues with them. So we're going to go ahead and measure, find out how high we need these. And I'm going to put a mark in there, just a crude mark, and then we're going to measure that mark, and we're going to make sure that they're both the same for both sides, and then we'll be able to put these in those locations and mark them and glue it in there nicely. So let's go ahead and mark here. So that's the top of the servo there, and top of the servo there on that side. All right, so we have the front back servo. It's going to be hard to see in there, guys. I apologize. It's going to be really dark in there, but needless to say, the marks are there. And I'm going to measure, and I'm going to make sure that they're both the same from a given point. So that's 45 millimeters. 45 millimeters. All right, and then I'm going to transfer those marks to here on this side, because that's going to be the top of where the servo 45, and again on this side 45. Okay, now that I have those marks in there, I have a place to line these up. Okay, let's see. I'm going to cut this because it's in my way. I don't think I need that long. Out of there. And we're going to take a break here while I grab a clamp. Okay, so we got the servo mounts here in place. We'll bring it in a little closer, see if the light will show up on it a little bit better. Let's see, there we go. So servo mounts in place. Now we're working on the front section. We want to make a false wall or false floor in here using some hardwood mounts, and then we're going to screw in a top plate where the battery is going to mount. So we're going to go ahead and get that started here first. Come on, stop it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do the other side here. I'm just going to do that on the time lapse. Not going to worry about recording the same thing again. So we'll go ahead and we'll glue the second one in place. And then we're going to, now that the servo mount rails are dried in there, I'm going to add a little bit of reinforcement on them just to spread the load out on it. And then we're going to kind of line up where the servos all need to be. That way I can put in the brace to hold in the nyrod tubes, the guides. And that way that part is all set, ready to go. And we also have the false floor in. I'm going to go ahead and get the plywood plate to go in there. It's going to be a thin plywood, light ply with a couple of screws in there just to hold that in place. Probably just 4, 6, somewhere around that. And I'm going to put the slots in there for the Velcro strap to go around it so we can easily Velcro strap that battery in place. And then we'll finish up on the hatch. And then the fuselage is pretty much ready to start being covered with the base white color. So stay tuned, guys. Keep an eye and follow along on the time lapse. Okay, so as you saw in the time lapse, we went ahead and we made up a battery plate, and I added some lightning holes through it, and a strap spot there. So this will fit right inside this the fuselage here, and on these wooden rails that I glued in place here. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to drill out a couple of spots here for screws, so that way this can be removed as needed to gain access to where the ESC is going to be down in the bottom down here. So that's what we did off camera. So we're going to go ahead and move on. We're going to go ahead and drill out these holes and put in some pilot holes for the screws, and we'll get that started as well. Okay, so that part's done. We got the battery plate in there with some lightning holes, and also put in a couple of screws to hold that in place. So now we can take that out and access where the ESC is going to be, which is going to be right underneath the battery, but separated by the battery mounting plate. So that's all done. We got the mounts in here for the servos. We're going to go ahead and get the holes in there for the servos next. I got to decide how these are going to be laid out. And then once we have that part laid out as well, we can go ahead and put in the brace for the control rod pieces here. So that way everything is done inside the airframe. And then we'll be ready to finish up on the mounting. So the other thing that we did off camera is I went ahead and made up this this plate here with the magnets for the front hatch. But I want to make sure I got that plate in there first, just in case. This is going to mount right up here against the firewall. And we've already put the magnets in the corresponding locations on the hatch itself. And what I'm going to be doing is using some barbecue skewers glued up here in the front, this section up here, and those are going to pin in place here, and then the magnets will hold that down, just like so. So how about we go ahead and get those drilled out and put that in there first. So I'm going to set that off to the side a little bit. Okay, so we got the hatch all completed now. We have the guides up here in the front, and we just basically lift it off with the magnets, and there you go, it's all set. You just slide it in there, and boom, there you go. Now we got the hatch on. It's all been blended in nicely. We got the servo rails in. We're gonna go ahead and, oh, I do have to glue in that front magnet though, so let's go ahead and do that while we, really quickly. And that's just going to use a little bit of thin CA because that fits nice and snug. So we're just going to put a little bit of thin CA right inside there. Let that seep in around the joints. And that holds in there nice and tight. Boom, there we go. It's all set. Spray with a little kicker so that we don't accidentally glue anything to it. And let that set off. We'll do a quick sand on there too. Boom, there you go. So now we have the hatch on there ready to go for the canopy so we can get to the battery. The battery mount plate is glued in place and screwed down. We got the servo rails mounted. So we're gonna go ahead and mount the servos next. And then from that point, we'll be able to glue in the control rod guides in place on the back, right here at the back section here. And then we'll be ready to start adding the covering. So, all right, let's go ahead and get that part done. Mount the servos so we know where they're gonna be. Okay, so we got one servo mounted for the nose wheel, and I got the push rod pushed all the way through here from the guide for the wire, because what we're going to be using is a brass wire to go from the nose wheel servo to the nose wheel itself. So that guide is in. I'm going to wait to do the final guide up here to when I get the servo mounted and everything is good in place. But the servo is in place. We're ready to go on to the next one. So we're going to find out where we need to put the rudder and the elevator servo next. now that I got the servos mounted inside here, I'm not sure how the light sees in there, but so we got the servos mounted. Now I can glue the brace piece for the control push rods. So I'm going to go ahead and I already shaved this piece down and sanded it to the right size. Now I'm going to try to do a trial fit of where the alignment needs to be here. Need a little more sanding on it. Let's try that again. There we go, now it fits. And we want to make sure it's high enough that the servos will line up, and then I can mark where these holes need to be. Okay, so like I was saying, so we got the block in there, we got it marked. I want to sand a little bit on these, the push rod tubes, just so that the glue will stick to them. As much as I can in that tight space in there. And that piece fits in there pretty snug, so I'm going to use a little bit of wood glue in there instead of the CA. Give it a nice strong bond. So we'll put a little bit of wood glue on the side here and on the face. Same on this side and on the face. We're going to feed the tubes back in. Okay, so as you can see from the time lapse, we went ahead, we got all the servos mounted in place. So we got the elevator, rudder, and nose wheel servo all mounted. Also have the control tube, the push rod tube for the cable, because we're going to be using this cable here, 256 size flexi cable for the nose wheel steering, and that's going to go to the servo closest to the left side of the aircraft. We have then the bracing in place now for the control rod guides for the tail surfaces, the rudder and elevator, and those servos are now mounted in place. So that part is all done. We also have completed the hatch, which now slides in through the top and then magnets securely in place. So that's all looking really good. I'm really happy with how this is all turning out. It looks really beautiful here. We got the servo, everything is pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a coat of the water-based polyurethane over this whole thing. And what that's going to allow me to do is it's going to seal the wood before I cover it. So it's going to look really good there. So, all right, guys. So that's all I have for today. I want to appreciate everybody's support, and make sure you go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe if you like what you're seeing. Make sure you share it. The more subscribers, the better. If you want to help support my channel, I do have some t-shirts for sale on Teespring, so go ahead and check it out. Go ahead and purchase a t-shirt, and all the proceeds go to supporting the channel and helping me bring more content like this. I have a lot of builds coming down the line, and definitely wanted to share those with you and share the experiences I have in the world of RC. So stay tuned for the next video, guys, and look forward to seeing you. Keep building and keep flying.